And we're back with some more Satisfactory. And we're down here in the bowels of the factory, well below all of the regular production, because we're going to start on a massive upgrade program. If we want to be producing those items up in the top right, or the Phase 4 objectives in any reasonable numbers, we're going to need to start beefing production up to some sort of ridiculous levels. So first up, plastic and rubber. This here is what it's going to look like. Well, start to look like. This here is just to make fuel. Now, I know I said plastic and rubber, but plastic and rubber is so weird. Down here you have alternate recycled plastic. Now, this makes plastic, but it does it making 6 rubber and 6 fuel. So it takes in 6 rubber, it takes in 6 fuel, and it spits out 12 plastic. However, there's also another recipe for alternative recycled rubber, which this takes 6 plastic and 6 fuel and spits out 12 rubber. Basically the exact same, except, you know, it's plastic to rubber instead of rubber to plastic. All this does is you take 6 fuel and you effectively are able to turn it into 6 rubber. You can ignore the plastic bit, you sort of recycle that and cycle that back in again. So all you want to do to start is make a lot of fuel, and then all of that fuel can be turned into rubber or plastic depending on what way you need to make it. So this here is going to produce 300 oil residue out of that, 300 heavy oil residue out of that, and then we'll take that and turn it into, well, 1200 fuel. Luckily I was doing these already when we did our power upgrade, so this was actually fairly straightforward. Though I've gotten much sloppier about the power cabling. I was like, you know what, let's just chuck them all in and get them done. Less finesse, more speed. With that done, let's move into plastic and rubber. Well, actually, no. Let's move into fuel production. We've got to turn this heavy oil into fuel. Before I stick the outputs on this monstrosity, I thought I'd kind of go over what's happening here. This pipe back here is going to be connected up to the crude oil. And this crude oil pipe kind of snakes its way around these 16 or so refineries. And the refineries take in the crude oil, spit out heavy oil residue and polymer resin. Polymer resin is all going to get shunted to the front and destroyed in an awesome sink. We could do stuff with it, but honestly, we don't need to. We're just going to produce that much. And as you can see, the pipes and the belts just clip through each other in a horrible, monstrous, beautiful way. It's lovely. Then this heavy oil residue gets spit out here on both ends. Half of it goes over to here, where it gets turned into fuel by being combined with water, which is coming from over here. We'll cover that in a second. As you see, those pipes clip through each other as well. It's just beautiful. These 6 refineries here will produce 600 fuel. That's enough to max out one of these level 2 pipes. And then the other heavy oil residue comes across here. Same setup again, 6 blenders, 600 fuel pops out the other side. And then, of course, we have... well, we need 600 water. Each one of these produces 120 water. We get 5 of them together. Boom, you got 600 water. Same over here, though. I couldn't quite get them to fit together. And you know what? I wasn't changing everything at that point, so it's lopsided. I've learned to live with things slipping through each other and just not care. It's fine. It's fine. That's going to give us the 600 fuel. All we have to do is just run the pipes at the front of each of these, and we'll have the 600 fuel we need, or, well, 1200 fuel we need to make 600 plastic and 600 rubber. So, yeah, just give me a couple of minutes. After a little bit of playing around, we ended up with this. What we have is 10 refineries on each side, each one spitting out 600 plastic, or, well, 600 plastic on that side, 600 rubber on this side is the plan. And then they sort of feed back around into each other. For example, this here is going to spit out plastic. The 10 of them will make 600. That will go all the way to the end over there. And then half of it's going to get shunted into a storage container for now. The other half is going to get fed down this side, to get fed into these machines. These machines will take the plastic and the fuel we're dumping into it to make rubber. All that rubber will get spit out the front, and then half of it will get shunted into storage for now. The other half will get fed back around here and dumped into the refineries on this side, so that the rubber and the fuel can be turned into plastic. This should, in theory, spit out 300 rubber and 300 plastic. In theory, I haven't actually turned it on yet. So, over there, we've got the crude oil pipe. All we have to do is hook that up, and we'll see if this sucker works. Done. The oil starts to flow, the refineries start to refine. Yep, there we go. So, that's the start of it. Let's just see what happens. Oop, bottom left down there turned green for a bit. Let's reposition. Yeah, I think we can see some of them starting to operate. I'll have to double check all the piping, of course. There may be some things that are not working or clipping through each other, but... yeah, we've got fuel coming out. Alright, let's give this a minute or so to catch up. It's going to take, well, okay, 4 or 5 minutes. Once it does, we should see fuel starting to make it as far as here. Where yet we're just starting to see a small amount of it creeping through. I'm going to let this backfill a bit. Reason being, until we actually put something in here, I'm going to just dump in some rubber to start, to get this whole thing kick-started. And we'll see where it goes from there. Just let the fuel catch up for now. Bearing in mind here that this is only half of the production, the other 300 fuel is over there. We haven't actually tapped into that. We're just using this 600 fuel here. Now, if we go all the way to the end, let's show you just sort of how this works as we start her up. We're going to throw in the rubber in here. That rubber is going to be processed with the fuel, and it's going to spit out, well, it's going to take 30 rubber, 30 fuel, and spit out 60 plastic. That 60 plastic is going to get spit out the front here. Now, we've stuck a smart splitter on here, and if I've configured this correctly, it should all get sent this direction. Where this one's going to get about half of it, which should allow it to start making rubber. That rubber... Wait for it. Rubber is going to get split out the front here. Same thing, smart splitter. That's going to send it all the way over here. And a bunch of that rubber is going to end up in this refinery, where it gets turned into plastic. And yeah, right back over here again. And slowly it's saturating both of these. Now, until both of these lines are fully saturated, nothing else is going to go into storage. This is currently just filling everything up so that we've got more than enough plastic and rubber going through both of them. Should take about 20 minutes or so, but once it's done, we're going to have lots of plastic and rubber. Just assuming this works and there's no issues. I'm kind of shocked this started up first time round. I was expecting something to go wrong. I'm still expecting something to go wrong. But we'll cut back in about 20 minutes and see how it's all panned out. Well, miracles will never cease. We've got a backup of rubber. We've got a backup of plastic. Every single refinery all the way down along the line has turned green. Yep. We now have rubber being stored in this storage container over here. That's filling up quite nicely. It should be filling up at about 300 per minute. Excellent. Those transport belts are Mark 5, by the way. Then we're going to have that spit out here, and, well, this here is going to be spitting out more plastic. We haven't hooked it up yet. We're waiting, but that's going to combine with that, and we should have 600 plastic that will come out this end here. Well, I don't know where we're going to shunt that just yet, but we'll find out. And then we've got another... Well, all the rubber is going to get shunted in here from that section over there. That will give us 600 rubber, 600 plastic. And that should be more than enough to get us up to about 8, 8, 2, and 2. For those Phase 4 objectives, we want to produce 8 of one per minute, 8 of the next per minute, 2 of whatever they're called per minute, and 2 of the whatever. Or, I can't remember their names. All I know is we need a lot of resources. But first up, we want to start plugging that rubber and plastic into our grid upstairs. That's going to require us to, well, build a ladder straight up. When I said build a ladder straight up, I was not joking. I'm literally just going to climb up this ladder from down there, and that will give us sort of a bit of an idea of where we're going to end up top, and then we can sort of backfill it. I know, not the most sane thing in the world. This person must have the most incredible head for heights you've ever seen. Would you look at that? There is our lair. Right about there. Perfect. In fact, let's just throw down a landing pad for ourselves so we have something to land on. Nice. Excellent. We can use this area here to plug ourselves in. Nope. I just got to figure out where it all plugs into. Turns out it was a lot closer than I thought. The rubber was actually running straight by us. I ran straight by it the first time. That actually goes over there and goes to the rubber section, and down there is where the plastic is. It actually goes into a little storage container before getting it shunted up into our onto our main bus. And that over there is where the rubber gets shunted up. Then all we had to do, wasn't actually that bad, was run some conveyor lifts. You just build a conveyor lift, run those down, and then reverse them and run more. Well, it took 3 of them to get all the way down to the bottom. But now we're just pumping up all the rubber and plastic we can need. The plastic is still moving because we needed a lot of that. We were actually spent all of the ones we had. Now I just got to go down and plug in those other ones. Dear Lord, that is a beautiful sight. It's like you just start off like an ant, you feel like it. You start building stuff and then you look back and go, oh yeah, that took several hours, didn't it? It's all flowing beautifully. 600 of each resource. We shouldn't have to expand that again anytime in the near future. Though, but yeah, famous last words, of course. Though it actually turned out nice and neat. I was expecting it to be a lot messier. Yes, just ignore the clipping. The clipping is fine, right? It still works. All right, next up is going to be, we're going to make a train station module. The thing is, I was looking at all of the numbers, and actually, yeah, it's probably easier if I just show you the numbers. This spider web of things here is a visualization of the factory we've got built, and as you can see, it's an absolute mess. And yes, I know it looks very complicated, but don't worry, it's not that bad. This just tells us how much of all of the different resources we're going to need and what way we're going to have to plug them all in if we want to get out our recommended 8 assembly directors, 8 magnetic field generators, 2 nuclear capacita, and 2 thermal propulsion rockets. To get all of this is going to require all of this. However, that's a little bit expensive. For example, here is the total numbers, as in how much raw resources of each we're going to need. And running them all down a main bus is a little bit awkward. So what we want to do is split off a few things to take the load off our main bus. Now already you see we've got bauxite down here. None of that bauxite ends up on our main bus. It's all done at a sub-factory off on the side. So here's our main factory, and then if we scroll out down here, we've actually got our aluminum facility over here, and that gives us our aluminium casing and our alcad, all of which is sent in via train, meaning we're only shipping about 500 resources via train instead of the 800 bauxite, and then we would have had water, all this other stuff. It removes a whole layer of complication. So I was thinking, let's get rid of another layer of complication, and a hugely jumping out at you type of item is the encased frame, the heavy modular frame. The reason this jumps out so much is it's actually a dead end for a lot of resources. For example, encased industrial beams, they all go into this. Like, literally every single encased industrial beam you make goes into heavy modular frames. Well, using my recipes anyway, or the recipes I've decided to use. So this means if we build these off-site and ship them in, or train them in, then we don't need any encased industrial beams on our bus. In fact, we don't even need any production of that in our main bus. We'll leave it there because we're going to need them for build projects, but whatever. And concrete as well, it literally, all of our concrete goes into heavy modular frames. I could have literally taken concrete off the bus if I had known that, but whatever. This means if we outsource the heavy modular frames to somewhere else on the map and train them in, we'd only have to bring in 20 heavy modular frames per minute, throw those onto the bus. We could completely remove concrete and completely remove heavy industrial beams. As well as that, heavy industrial beams and heavy modular frames, they consume on huge amounts of steel. Just, oh my god, the amount of steel that goes into this is ridiculous. And when was the last one? Yes, bolted frames. It does take a fair chunk of our bolted frames as well. If we take this and outsource it, it'll look something like this. It won't be that complicated at all. We can send it out somewhere on the map. And if we add it in here, we can remove 905 iron ore and coal and all of the limestone from the bus, meaning we'd be able to get by with just a single belt of iron and coal. So outsourcing this just seems like a no-brainer. As well as that copper ore number, I know that's crazy high, but there's a copper powder thing we're going to be removing later that will remove 2,400 that copper ore. We're going to be outsourcing that as well. So what we want to do is find a place where it's got lots of iron, coal, and limestone so we can set up a little factory and dump that onto our main bus. So all we do is we go back to this map, zoom out, and let's see if we can't find a location. So all we need right now is iron ore. Pure nodes would be nice. Coal ore, coal nodes would be nice. And the one thing that jumps out at me is this area here. There is 3 pure coal nodes right beside each other, 3 pure iron and coal right there, just beautiful. And then all we need is some limestone to go with that. And yep, there's 2 of them right beside it. That will give us more than enough. We might even make some wet limestone just to stretch that supply a bit. Actually, oh yeah, there's plenty. There's loads of limestone in the surrounding area. So what I want to do is go out here, build a factory to make our heavy modular frames, and then we train them back in. We'll just build a railway spur out here, plug it back into our network, and that will take a whole bunch of load off our main bus. So let's get out there and see what that area is like. To embark on this next stage, well, we're going to need a build train. So I've sort of filled in this entire area here with concrete. There's our space elevator over there, and this whole new white stretch here that looks like a nice sandy beach, that's where we put in all the concrete, and this is our new build train. This thing here is going to be what we're going to be using to drag all of our resources to this new build location. We've just crammed it full of a bunch of junk. I think the last cargo wagon is just full, or the second last cargo wagon is full of nothing but concrete. We're going to be doing a lot of building. So I think we'll do a quick fast forward while we drive out to the location. And we have arrived. I really don't know can we run off the end of these tracks? I haven't tested that yet, and I didn't really want to do it with a train full of resources. Alright, down there is our iron nodes. We've actually got one over there and a couple further back. Let's check this here. Where is it? Yeah, there's one and a couple more over there. I'm thinking we're going to build a concrete platform just about there and use that for our base, because everything else is actually quite lower down. Let me start scoping out some area for us to get to work on. There's also should be a ladder. Yes, there's a ladder right there so we can get up and down. We installed a little bit of a train stop, namely so we could tap into the power grid. Rails carry power, so we're able to plug in power to this section without having to run a power wire the whole way out here. It's just one of those little minor conveniences. Now down there we have 2 rows of smelters set up and ready to go. Now they're not there to smelt a whole row of iron plate. We only need 2 half rows, to be honest. But what we have done as well is we've installed a little bit of a transport tube thing so we can get back to base. I want to see if this works, which reminds me I should probably save this before I jump on it, just in case we fly off the edge of the map. Alright, let's see how this works. Now, the whole way this thing functions is every time you hop out of a tube and you go into the next, you get a little bit of a speed boost. But the faster you're going into the tube, when you start, the more acceleration you get from the first one. So I figure if we go up really high, we can get a nice boost of acceleration and fly ourselves right back to base really quickly. That seemed to work out perfectly. Swear to God, first run, and okay, I better hit the brakes. Okay. I think that went quite well. Okay, might want to start decelerating a lot earlier. Otherwise we end up halfway through the base, but I think that was a nice run. Alright, let me grab some wire and head back. I know I should really be using the train to go back and forwards, but there's something just so much fun about using these systems. Alright, let's hop in and see if we've got this one right. I think I'm getting better at lining these things up. Alright. Famous last words, let's see where we're going. No, we're perfectly on target. The wonderful thing is you can line yourself up using the map, and then it's just a case of getting yourself heading in roughly the right direction. Oop. There's the manta. Learn how to fly a little bit higher, buddy. Oh, no, we're still going to need to use a little bit of juice to glide our way in, otherwise we would crash out before we get there. Not the worst. Probably could have used a little bit more oomph. Alright, for this system though, what we're doing is we've got these 2 smelters down here. We're going to actually put down a 3rd row of smelters, but we're going to then feed that all into the top floor. We're going to do a layered system. So the bottom floor is going to be all for making the iron ingots. Then the second floor is all going to be about making steel ingots, and then we're going to place a floor on top of that, and every floor we place is going to get us closer and closer to the train. So, yeah, let me floor this sucker. Everywhere we go, we end up blotting out the sun. It's always, well, dark, no matter what we do. Anyway, we've hooked up a couple of mines. We've got this one here, which is overclocked to 780 parts per minute, because that's what our transport belts can support. That's one of the nice things about these pure nodes, though a regular node, you can still get about 600 out of those, so 2 regular nodes is still better than a pure. But, yeah, we've got 2 iron nodes coming in here, fully saturated lines. We've also got 2 coal nodes coming from, well, way over there. Yeah, as you can see, perfectly straight lines, all nice, convenient, blah, blah, blah. Then all of that comes straight up here. Now, once we get to the top here, well, not quite the top, the first row, you'll see this is where the iron ore comes in. And we'll just hook these up now. That should start smelting, and hook that one up there. We're actually going to have a little bit of iron ore left over to run a 3rd row, but we'll do that later. In fact, actually, let's hook up that 3rd row now. I've got most of it done. Though I do have to. Oh, damn it! I didn't power that row. Oh yeah, the other 2 rows though definitely powered. That starts the iron ingots. Those iron ingots are going to get smelted, and then once those ingots get to the very end of the row, and by end of the row I mean all the way down here, they actually get sent up on transport belt. So. Yeah, here comes the iron ingots from down below. So all the iron ingots come out here, get sent up these conveyor belts, and start getting smelted into steel ingots through here. So all of these are churning out steel, and that steel is going to get put on this transport belt and sent down to the end. Fortunately, that's as far as I've gotten. It takes a while, it seems, to put all of this together. Holy Christ. The next plan is to take 1 full belt of this and turn that just into steel pipe. The amount of steel pipe you need for this build is incredible. This will have to split out across more steel pipe and a bunch of others, but I'm sort of out of time for today. It takes a little bit of a while to put these together. I mean, that 177 hours, I mean, about 50 of those, like, I let this run over Christmas to make snowballs, so, like, 50 of those were not me actually playing at it. I mean, I do have some life, just, like, a tiny bit. But that's all the coal and the iron hooked up. All we need now is to bring in the limestone so that we can start making encased steel beams and the heavy modular frames. The limestone, though, I'm thinking we're going to be using the wet concrete alternative. It's just, it takes so much, we need so much limestone to make this whole little module run. It's amazing how quickly these things spiral. Anyway, I am going to cut this out here for today. Sorry we couldn't get any more done. It's just, it's the way the cookie crumbles. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck.